We are walking down to the St. Peter's Square. So the place where we are right now, this is St. Peter's Square, and we are going in. This is the entrance here. St. Peter's Square. St. Peter's Basilica, which is called Basilica di San Pietro in Vaticano in Italian. It is a large church in the Vatican City in Rome, Italy. It is often called the greatest church in the Christendom in Catholic tradition. St. Peter's Basilica is believed to be the burial place of St. Peter, who was one of the 12 apostles of Jesus. It is believed that St. Peter was the first bishop of Rome. A church was built here in the 4th century AD. The building that stands here now was begun on April 18, 1506 and was finished in 1626. Many popes have been buried here. Although many people think St. Peter's is a cathedral, it is not, because it does not have a bishop. The Pope is the Bishop of Rome, and although he usually uses the St. Peter's as his main church because he lives in the Vatican, his bishop's throne is in a different church, the Cathedral of St. John Lateran. We are already inside the St. Peter's Church. On January 1st, 1547, in the reign of Pope Paul III, Michelangelo, who was already over 70, became the architect of St. Peter's. He is the main designer of the building as it stands today. Michelangelo died before the job was finished. But by the time he had got the construction up to a point where other people could get it finished, Michelangelo had already done a lot of work for the popes, carving figures for the tomb of Pope Julius II, painting the Sistine Chapel ceiling, which took 5 years, and the enormous fresco The Last Judgment on the wall of the Sistine Chapel. Michelangelo found the popes and the cardinals very difficult to work with. When Pope Paul asked him to be the new architect for St. Peter's, Michelangelo did not want the job. In fact, Pope Paul did not really want Michelangelo, but his first choice, Giulio Romano, died suddenly. Michelangelo told the Pope that he would only do the job if he could do it in whatever way he thought was best. Michelangelo wrote one thing: "I am only doing this for the love of God and to honor of the apostle." Furnishing of St. Peter's, Pope Urban VIII and Bernini. As a young boy, Gian Lorenzo Bernini, 1598 to 1680, visited St. Peter's and said that one day he wanted to build a mighty throne for the apostle. His wish came true as a young man in 1626. Pope Urban VIII asked him to work as architecture for the basilica. Bernini spent the next 50 years thinking of new and beautiful things to design. He is thought of as the greatest architect and sculptor of the Baroque period. One of the books of the Bible called the Acts of Apostle, tells what happened to the disciples of Jesus after he was put to the death of crucifixion in the 1st century AD. One of his 12 disciples became the leader. His name was Simon Peter, and he was a fisherman from Galilee. Peter became one of the most important people in starting the Christian church. Another important disciple was Paul of Tarsus, who traveled to many places and wrote lots of letters to teach to encourage people in the Christian groups that began to spring up in many different parts of the Roman Empire. St. Paul traveled to Rome. It is believed that St. Peters also traveled to Rome and that both Paul and Peter were put to death there as Christian martyrs. St. Paul was beheaded with a sword. Peter was crucified upside down. It is believed that the body of St. Peter was buried in a cemetery near the Via Cornelia, a road leading out of the city, on the hill called Vatican. Peter's grave was marked by a red rock, the symbol of his name. The place where Peter died was marked in the 1400s by a little round temple called the St.peters, designed by Bramet. St. Peter's is very important in Roman Catholic tradition because Peter is believed to have been the head of the Christian church in Rome, and so he was the first bishop. The Gospel of Matthew tells that Jesus said, "This word to Peter means a rock." The Roman Catholic Church believes that Jesus made Peter the head of the Christian church, and so all the bishops of Rome must be the leader of the Christian church throughout the whole world. St. Peter's Basilica, as it is stands today, was begun in 1506. The first basilica, which is now called Old St. Peter Basilica, was begun by the Emperor Constantine between 326 and 333 AD. This was a big white church in the shape of a Latin cross over 103.6 meters. The church had been built over a small shrine believed to mark the burial place of St. Peter. The old basilica contained a very large number of tombs and memorials, including those of most of the popes from St. Peter's to the 15th century. By the end of the 15th century, the old basilica was falling to pieces. Pope Nicholas V was worried about it and got 2 architects to make plans to restore it or build a new one. But Pope Nicholas had so many political problems that when he died, very little of the work had been done.